The huge meeting room buzzed with noise as beings from 47 different worlds gathered around the curved tables. Jake Morrison sat straight in his chair, looking at the alien faces around him. His hands rested flat on the metal table surface. Next to him, Lisa Carter flipped through her notes one more time. Both humans wore simple blue uniforms with Earth's symbol on the chest. The room smelled like a mix of different chemicals and strange perfumes. Some aliens breathed different gases, so air filters worked hard to keep everyone alive. The lighting hurt Jake's eyes. It was too bright and had a green tint that made everything look sick. Chairman Vextar stood up at the front of the room. He was twice as tall as any human, with dark green scales covering his body. His yellow eyes looked down at everyone like they were insects. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough. "We gather today to finish the Galactic Protection Accord," Vextar said. His words echoed off the curved walls. "The humans will give up 70% of their warships. They will let us watch over their breeding programs. They will only be allowed to observe council meetings, not vote." Jake felt his jaw tighten. For 3 months, he had sat through these talks. Every day brought new insults. The blue-skinned Zephyrians called humans barely evolved apes. The crystal beings from Vortani said Earth should be grateful just to sit at the table. The Aquarian delegate raised one of her 4 arms. Water dripped from her gills as she spoke. "The human species shows too much emotion. They fight among themselves. They cannot be trusted with real power in galactic affairs." More voices joined in. A bug-like creature with multiple eyes clicked its agreement. "Their technology is primitive. Their ships are slow and weak. They need our protection from the real dangers in space." Jake had heard it all before. He looked at Lisa, who gave him a small nod. They had talked about this moment many times in private. Earth's leaders had given them clear instructions. If the terms did not improve, they were to leave. "Humans are too young as a species," said another alien. "This one looking like a walking tree with bark for skin. They have only been in space for a few hundred years. We have been traveling between stars for thousands." The Saurian Emperor's representative, a smaller version of Chairman Vextar, stood up next. "Earth will accept these terms or face the consequences. No single world can stand against the combined might of the Galactic Council." That was the final push Jake needed. He stood up slowly, his chair making a loud scraping sound on the metal floor. The noise cut through all the alien chatter like a knife. Every eye in the room turned to look at him. "Chairman Vextar," Jake said in a calm voice, "honored delegates from across the galaxy." He paused and looked around the room. Some aliens leaned forward to hear better. Others sat back, probably expecting him to beg or make a deal. "The United Earth Federation has listened to your terms. We have heard your opinions about our species. We have sat through months of insults disguised as negotiations." Lisa stood up next to him and began putting their papers into a metal briefcase. The sound of papers rustling seemed very loud in the quiet room. After careful thought, Earth formally withdraws from these peace talks. The room exploded with noise. Aliens chittered, roared, and made sounds Jake had no words for. Some jumped up from their seats. Others started talking to each other in languages that hurt human ears. "You cannot just leave," shouted the Aquarian, her gills opening and closing fast. "Your species is weak. You are divided. Your technology cannot protect you from the real threats out there." A crystal being made a sound like breaking glass. "This is not how galactic politics work. You must accept our guidance." Jake picked up his briefcase and walked toward the exit. Lisa followed close behind. The aliens kept shouting, but Jake did not turn around. "Wait," called Chairman Vextar. "You need us more than we need you. Your people will suffer without the protection of the Council." Jake stopped at the big metal doors that led out of the meeting room. He turned back to face the crowd of aliens one last time. "You think humans are weak because we feel emotions. You think we are stupid because we fight among ourselves. You think we are helpless because our technology is different from yours." He looked directly at Chairman Vextar. But we survived ice ages that would have killed most of your species. We lived through plagues that wiped out most of our population. We fought wars that destroyed entire continents, and we rebuilt. The room had gone quiet again. Even the air filters seemed to make less noise. We explored the deepest oceans on our world when most of you were afraid to leave your home planets. We climbed the highest mountains for no reason except to see what was on the other side. We sent people to our moon using machines that were basically controlled explosions. Jake's voice got a little louder. Maybe it is time we reminded the galaxy what humans can do when we stop trying to play by everyone else's rules. He turned and walked to the exit. The doors opened with a soft hiss. Lisa followed him out into the corridor beyond. The doors closed. Behind them, with a final click that seemed to echo through the meeting room. The aliens sat in stunned silence, not sure what had just happened. In the hallway, Jake and Lisa walked toward their ship without looking back. Both knew that everything had just changed. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were really made of. 3 weeks passed since the humans walked out of the peace talks. News traveled fast through the galaxy's communication networks. Every alien government wanted to know what the humans were doing next. The answer surprised everyone. Human colonies across the galaxy had gone completely silent. Admiral Kyle Bennett stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Defiance, watching the last human transport ships leave the neutral zone. The Defiance was one of Earth's newest warships, much larger than anything humans had shown the aliens before. Energy hummed through the walls, making the metal vibrate slightly. "Sir, we just got the final report," said Communications Officer Helen Davis. She sat at a station covered with glowing screens and buttons. "Project Exodus is complete. All civilian populations have been moved to safe locations. Our military ships have pulled back to defensive positions." Kyle nodded as he looked at the main screen showing space around them. Human ships moved in perfect formation, each one heading toward Earth territory. "What about our friends out there?" Helen checked another screen. "Several smaller alien governments have asked to keep trading with us. It seems not everyone agrees with what the Galactic Council said about humans. Meanwhile, emergency meetings were happening on the Council station. Chairman Vex Tar paced back and forth in front of a large display showing human space. The display should have shown human ships, space stations, and colonies. Instead, it showed almost nothing. "They have put up some kind of barrier around their territory," Vextar said to the other council members. "Our scout ships cannot get through. Our long-range sensors show nothing but static." The crystal delegate from Vortani made a sound like wind chimes. "It must be primitive technology. Give them a few months, and they will come back asking for help when their simple machines break down." But intelligence reports told a different story. Human colonies had not been abandoned. Instead, humans had moved everyone to fewer, stronger locations. Trade routes that had used human cargo ships for decades were now experiencing delays. Goods were not moving from one part of the galaxy to another. Most worrying of all, several pirate groups that had been attacking ships in the Outer Rim had suddenly stopped their raids. The last communication from one pirate fleet was a distress call that cut off in the middle of a sentence. Dr. Alex Carter was a human scientist who had decided to stay on the council station. He studied alien life forms and had many friends among different species. Now he watched the council meetings with growing worry. He knew something the aliens did not understand. Humans were not running away in fear. They were getting ready for something big. "The economic reports are troubling," said the Aquarian delegate during one meeting. Her gills moved fast, showing she was nervous. Human freight companies carried 30% of all cargo in the outer systems. Without them, supply chains are breaking down. A bug-like alien clicked its mandibles together. "Surely other species can take over the shipping routes." "It is not that simple," replied an alien. That looked like a walking plant. Human ships use different navigation systems. They could travel through dangerous areas that our pilots avoid. They knew safe paths through asteroid fields and around unstable stars. Captain Nina Brooks commanded a small, fast ship called the Shadowrunner. Her job was to watch what was happening in alien space and report back to Earth. What she saw made her send urgent messages to human command. The ship was designed to be invisible to most alien sensors. It looked like a piece of space rock from the outside. Nina and her crew of 12 could watch alien activities without being detected. The Zephyrian mining operation in Sector 7 is asking for emergency help, she reported during her weekly check-in with Earth. Their automated mining equipment keeps breaking down. Apparently, human engineers had been maintaining the backup systems for years. On Earth, President Dan Tucker met with his top military advisors in a secure room deep underground. The room had no windows and thick walls that blocked all electronic signals. General Amy Foster and Admiral Rick Stone sat at a round table covered with reports and star maps. "The psychological warfare phase is working better than we hoped," said Intelligence Director Paul Grant. He was a thin man with gray hair who had spent 20 years studying alien governments. 17 alien species have formally asked to restart trade talks. The Council is facing pressure from member worlds that are running out of supplies. General Foster leaned forward in her chair. "What about military intelligence? Are they planning to attack us?" Paul smiled for the first time in weeks. "That is where it gets interesting. 3 major conflicts have started in the past month. Without human peacekeeping forces and diplomats to help solve problems, old fights between alien species are starting again." The president studied a holographic map that showed the entire galaxy. Red areas marked conflicts, yellow showed economic problems, and green meant everything was stable. There was much less green than there had been a month ago. "They are learning that we were not just participants in galactic civilization," President Tucker said slowly. "We were the maintenance crew they never noticed." On the frontier world of Kepler Prime, a small human settlement continued to work normally. Colony Administrator Beth Murphy ran the settlement of 5,000 humans. They grew food, manufactured goods, and lived quiet lives far from the main trade routes. But now something unexpected was happening. Alien refugees were arriving at their borders almost every day. "Ma'am, we have got another ship asking for protection," reported Security Chief Tony Martinez. He was a former military officer who had retired to the colony for a peaceful life. "That makes 57 ships this week." Beth looked out the window of her office at the refugee camp that had grown up outside the colony walls. Aliens from a dozen different species lived in temporary shelters, all following human rules and regulations. "Let them in," she said. "But they follow our laws while they are here." The irony was not lost on her. The same alien species that had called humans primitive were now seeking human protection from the chaos spreading through their own territories. Word was spreading through underground communication networks. Human territories were safe places where different species could live together peacefully. Human administrators were fair and efficient. Human security forces protected everyone equally, regardless of what species they came from. Back on the Council station, emergency sessions were called every day. The withdrawal of humanity had created a crisis nobody had predicted. The galaxy was learning that humans had been much more important than anyone realized. 6 months had passed since humanity left the peace talks. The galactic economy was falling apart. What the Council had thought were minor problems with trade had grown into major shortages across multiple star systems. Captain Nina Brooks, still, commanded the stealth ship Shadowrunner, watching alien space from hidden positions. Her weekly reports to Earth Command painted a picture of growing chaos that surprised even human intelligence analysts. "The Zephyrian Mining Consortium is begging for emergency aid," she transmitted during her regular check-in. "Their automated systems keep failing every few days. They cannot figure out why. Turns out human engineers had been maintaining the backup systems for decades without anyone noticing." Her ship drifted silently near a major trading station. Through powerful telescopes, she could see long lines of alien cargo ships waiting for repairs. Human maintenance crews had serviced over 60% of the galaxy's commercial fleet. Without them, ships were breaking down faster than alien mechanics could fix them. On Earth, President Dan Tucker called together his war cabinet in the deepest levels of the Pentagon. The room was filled with humanity's best military minds. Maps of the galaxy covered the walls, marked with colored pins showing the current state of alien space. The psychological warfare phase is working much better than we expected, reported Intelligence Director Paul Grant. 17 species have formally requested to restart trade negotiations. The Council is facing serious pressure from member worlds experiencing supply shortages. General Amy Foster studied a report on her tablet. What about military intelligence? Are they planning any attacks against us? Paul laughed, something he rarely did during briefings. That is where it gets really interesting. Our deep cover agents report that 3 major conflicts have broken out in the past month. Without human peacekeeping forces and diplomatic intervention, old territorial disputes are exploding into wars. The president walked over to a large holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Red zones showed active conflicts, yellow marked economic distress, and green represented stable regions. The amount of green had shrunk by more than half since humanity's withdrawal. They are learning that we were not just participants in galactic civilization, Tucker said thoughtfully. We were essential workers they never bothered to notice. Admiral Rick Stone pointed to several red zones on the map. The Saurian Empire and the Crystalline Federation have started shooting at each other over mining rights in the Vega system. The Aquarian Collective is fighting internal rebellions on 4 different worlds. Without human mediators, nobody can negotiate peace agreements. Meanwhile, on the frontier world of Kepler Prime, colony administrator Beth Murphy watched as another refugee ship landed at their spaceport. The small human settlement had become a beacon of stability in an increasingly chaotic galaxy. "Ma'am, we have got another group requesting asylum," reported Security Chief Tony Martinez. "That makes 312 ships this month alone." Beth looked out at the refugee camps that now surrounded their colony. What had started as a small farming community of 5,000 humans now protected over 50,000 alien refugees from dozens of different species. "Approved," she said. "But they follow our rules while they are here." The aliens were grateful for human protection, but they were also amazed by human efficiency. The refugee camps were clean, organized, and peaceful. Human administrators treated everyone fairly, regardless of species or background. Disputes were settled quickly and justly by human judges who had learned alien laws and customs. News of the human refugee camps spread through secret communication networks. Other human colonies reported similar situations. Alien civilians were fleeing the chaos in council space and seeking safety in human territory. Dr. Alex Carter, still working on the council station, sent regular reports to his human contacts. What he saw in the council meetings worried him greatly. "The situation is deteriorating faster than anyone predicted," he wrote in an encrypted message. "Food shortages are affecting 12 major worlds. The transportation network has collapsed in the Outer Rim territories. 3 council members have threatened to withdraw from the organization if the crisis is not resolved soon." The council chamber itself had become a place of constant arguments and blame. Species that had been allies for centuries were now accusing each other of causing the crisis. Chairman Vexitar tried to maintain order, but his authority was weakening daily. "We must find a solution to the human problem," he announced during one particularly heated session. "What human problem?" demanded the Aquarian delegate. "We told them to leave, and they left. This crisis is our own making. The crystal being from Vortani made a sound like breaking glass. The humans were obviously more integrated into our systems than we realized. We underestimated their importance." "Underestimated?" shouted a bug-like creature from the insectoid worlds. "They were doing jobs our own people should have been doing. We became dependent on an inferior species, but the evidence suggested humans were far from inferior. Intelligence reports showed that human territory remained stable and prosperous. Human colonies were accepting refugees and maintaining order. Most importantly, several minor alien governments had quietly approached human representatives about forming new alliances. The Tau Collective, a group of 12 small worlds, had formally withdrawn from the Galactic Council and requested protection from the Human Federation. The Wolfstar Republic, tired of council bureaucracy, had signed a mutual defense pact with Earth. Admiral Kyle Bennett, commanding the human fleet from the massive fortress ship Liberty, received daily updates on galactic affairs. The Liberty was 3 times larger than any ship humans had previously shown to aliens. It served as both a military command center and a mobile space station. "Sir, the Saurian Empire just lost their 3rd frontier world to local insurgents," reported his aide, Commander Scott Harris. "The local population declared independence and is requesting human protection." Bennett studied the tactical displays that surrounded his command chair. The human fleet had grown substantially during their 6 months of isolation. Secret research facilities had developed new technologies that made human ships faster and more powerful than before. More importantly, humans had formed alliances with dozens of minor species and independent worlds that felt abandoned by the Council. These new allies provided resources, intelligence, and strategic positions throughout the galaxy. "Begin Phase 3, Bennett ordered. "It is time to remind the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humanity." The bridge crew began preparations for the next stage of humanity's plan. Soon, the aliens would learn that humans had not been hiding in fear. They had been preparing for war. 1 year had passed since the humans walked out of the peace talks. The Galactic Council faced the worst crisis in their recorded history. 3 member species had declared war on each other. The Outer Rim territories had dissolved into chaos. The galactic economy was on the edge of complete collapse. Ambassador Ellen Wright stood before a crowd of alien refugees on the human settlement of New Geneva. She had replaced Jake Morrison as Earth's former representative, but now she worked as an independent mediator helping refugee groups. Her words were being broadcast across secret networks throughout the galaxy. "You called us primitive," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the assembled crowd. "You said we were too emotional, too chaotic, too unpredictable to participate in galactic governance." The crowd listened carefully. Over 200 aliens from 15 different species sat on simple wooden benches. They had all witnessed the efficiency and fairness of human administration in the refugee camps. Many had come from worlds where basic services had stopped working after humans left. "But look around you," Ellen continued. "In 1 year, without human involvement, your superior civilization has fallen into the very chaos you accused us of bringing." A Zephyrian engineer in the crowd raised his hand. "Ambassador Wright, my home world has been without power for 3 months. The fusion reactors keep shutting down. We cannot fix them without human technical support." An Aquarian merchant spoke next, her gills fluttering with emotion. "Our trade routes have collapsed. Human pilots knew safe passages through dangerous space that we never mapped ourselves. Without them, our cargo ships cannot reach their destinations." Ellen nodded sadly. "This is what happens when you dismiss an entire species as inferior without understanding what they actually contribute." Back on the council station, Chairman Vextar faced a vote of no confidence. The chamber that had once been united in dismissing humanity was now fractured and desperate. Half the seats were empty because member worlds were too busy dealing with local crises to send representatives. "The humans must be contacted," declared the Aquarian delegate, the same one who had called them weak a year earlier. "Our diplomatic channels are failing. Trade routes are collapsing. Entire worlds are going dark." The Crystalline Federation representative made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "They will not respond to our communications. Every message we send to human space is ignored. It is as if they have written us off completely. What the Council did not know was that humanity was watching everything. Admiral Bennett commanded the combined human fleet from the massive fortress ship Liberty. The ship was so large it could house 1 million people and manufacture its own escort vessels. Sir, the Saurian Empire just lost their 4th frontier world to local insurgents, reported his aide, Commander Scott Harris. The local population declared independence and is requesting human protection. Bennett studied the tactical displays that surrounded his command center. Holographic maps showed the current state of the galaxy in real time. Red zones marked active conflicts, yellow showed economic collapse, and green represented stable areas, under human protection. The human fleet had grown dramatically during their year of isolation. Secret shipyards had been working around the clock to build new vessels using advanced technologies. More importantly, humans had formed strong alliances with dozens of minor species and independent worlds. The Tau Collective just signed a formal alliance with us, reported Intelligence Officer Lisa Martinez. That brings our coalition to 43 independent worlds and 17 non-council species. Bennett smiled as he looked at the numbers. The Council started with 47 member species. We now have allies from 43 worlds plus our own colonies. We have effectively replaced them as the dominant power in this region of space. Dr. Alex Carter sent his final report from the Council station before preparing to leave. The human scientist had watched the organization fall apart from the inside. The Council is finished as an effective governing body, he wrote. Member species are withdrawing their support daily. The remaining delegates spend their time blaming each other instead of solving problems. 3 separate groups are planning to form their own regional governments. Meanwhile, Captain Nina Brooks continued her reconnaissance missions from the Shadowrunner. What she observed in former Council space shocked even experienced intelligence analysts. The Vortani homeworld is requesting emergency food supplies, she reported. Their agricultural systems have failed because human engineers were maintaining the climate control networks. The Insectoid Confederation has lost contact with 6 of their 12 worlds. Without human communication specialists, their long-range networks are breaking down. On New Geneva, Ellen Wright received a priority message from Earth Command. President Tucker wanted her to prepare for the next phase of their operation. Ellen, it is time for humanity to make our position clear, the President said during their secure video call. The galaxy needs to understand that we are not coming back as junior members. If they want our help, it will be on our terms. Ellen nodded as she looked out at the refugee camps surrounding the human settlement. What about all these aliens who sought our protection? Many of them are just civilians caught up in their government's mistakes. They can stay as long as they want, Tucker replied. Our quarrel is with the governments that treated us as inferior, not with individual aliens who respect human sovereignty. Admiral Bennett received his orders the same day. The human fleet began moving toward the border of former Council space. For the first time in a year, human warships were operating outside their own territory. The Liberty led a formation of 50 advanced warships toward the Council station. Each vessel was larger and more heavily armed than anything humans had previously revealed to alien governments. Sir, we are receiving emergency transmissions from the Council station, reported Communications Officer Helen Davis. They are requesting immediate humanitarian assistance for multiple crisis zones. Bennett looked at the main screen showing the Council station growing larger as they approached. Open a channel to the entire galaxy. It is time the Council heard what we have to say. The transmission went out on all frequencies, reaching every world in Council space and beyond. For the first time in a year, a human voice spoke directly to the galactic community. This is Admiral Kyle Bennett of the Terran Defense Coalition, he announced. We have received your request for assistance. However, the terms of engagement have changed. Humanity will no longer accept the role of junior partner in galactic affairs. On the Council station, Chairman Vextar stared at the view screen showing the approaching human fleet. The ships were clearly more advanced than anything the Council had expected. Their formation was perfect, their technology obviously superior to previous human designs. "Prepare for the arrival of the human delegation," Vextar ordered his staff, "and prepare to negotiate from a position of weakness." The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely. Now it was the aliens who needed human help to survive. The huge building on Centris Prime looked like it was made of glass and light. It stretched up into the purple sky for miles. Inside this building, creatures from across the galaxy came to talk and make deals. Today was one of those big days that happened every few months. Jake Morrison sat at a small table near the back of the giant room. He was 52 years old, with gray hair at his temples and tired blue eyes. Next to him sat Lisa Carter, a young woman with dark hair who knew more about alien life than most people twice her age. They were the only humans in a room full of hundreds of different alien species. The room buzzed with strange sounds. Some aliens clicked their teeth together to talk. Others made singing noises that went up and down like music. A few glowed with different colors instead of using words at all. Jake had been coming to these meetings for 3 years now, ever since Earth joined the Galactic Council. He still found the noise overwhelming sometimes. Earth was the newest member of the Council. Most of the other species had been part of this group for thousands of years. Some had been here since before humans even learned to make fire. This made Jake and Lisa feel very small and very new. At the front of the room stood a tall, purple creature with 4 arms. His name was Vexathar, and he came from the Zephyrian Empire. His people had been running galactic politics longer than human civilization had existed. He had scales instead of skin and yellow eyes that never seemed to blink. When he looked at the human table, his face showed the same expression someone might have when looking at bugs. The meeting started with boring stuff about trade routes and shipping costs. Jake listened, but did not say much. Lisa took notes on her tablet, writing down everything that might matter to Earth later. Most of the aliens ignored them completely. A few pointed at them and whispered to each other in their strange languages. After an hour of trade talk, Vexathar stood up. His 4 arms moved as he talked, making gestures that looked important. "I want to bring up something that has been bothering many of us," he said. His voice came through the translation machines as cold and sharp. Jake felt Lisa tense up next to him. They both knew this was not going to be good news. "The human species," Vexathar continued, "has been given many chances to prove they belong here, but they keep showing us why they do not." He paused and looked right at Jake. "Their planet is a mess. They fight wars over stupid things. They cannot even talk to each other without making noise with their mouths like animals. Some of the other aliens made sounds that the translation machines told Jake meant laughter. A bug-like creature with 6 legs clicked its mouth parts together rapidly. A cloud of gas that floated near the ceiling changed colors in a pattern that meant amusement." Vexathar smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp and too many. "These humans think they deserve the same rights as species that have spent millions of years becoming civilized. But look at them. They live for barely 100 years. They need machines to travel between stars. They cannot even communicate properly without their crude technology." More aliens joined in the laughter. Jake watched as creatures from dozens of different worlds all agreed that humans were not good enough to be here. Some were nodding. Others were making their species' version of agreement sounds. A crystal creature that looked like a living diamond pulsed with bright colors. Through the translator, Jake heard, "The humans are like children playing with toys they do not understand. Perhaps we should send them back to their little planet until they grow up." The gas cloud alien spoke next. "They poison their own world, and then ask us to trust them with other planets. They start wars over invisible lines on maps. How can such a violent species be allowed to spread across the galaxy?" Lisa leaned over to Jake and whispered, "Sir, we need to say something. They are making us look terrible." Jake did not answer. He just sat there with his hands folded on the table. His face showed nothing. He had learned long ago that sometimes the best thing to do was listen and wait. The bug creature was talking now. In our hive, we share thoughts and knowledge instantly. But humans must use sounds and gestures like primitive beasts. They cannot even understand their own children without these crude methods. Each comment made the laughter louder. Jake could feel hundreds of alien eyes on him, waiting to see how the human would react. Some looked amused, others looked disgusted. A few seemed genuinely curious about what he would do. Vexithar raised all four of his hands for silence. The room went quiet. I propose that we limit human expansion to their current systems. No new colonies, no new trade routes. Until they can prove they are truly civilized, they should stay in their corner of space where they cannot cause more damage. The suggestion sent a wave of excited chatter through the room. Many aliens seemed to like this idea. Jake felt Lisa's hand grip, his arm under the table. Furthermore, Vexthar continued, perhaps humans would be better suited to the observation sectors, where we keep other primitive species for study. They could live there safely while we watch them try to evolve into something worthy of our attention. This comment brought the loudest laughter yet. Creatures clicked, sang, glowed, and buzzed with amusement. The idea of putting humans in a zoo seemed to delight them. Jake still did not move. He sat perfectly still while hundreds of aliens laughed at his entire species. Lisa was breathing hard next to him, her face red with anger and embarrassment. The laughter went on for several minutes. When it finally started to die down, Vexithar looked directly at Jake with his unblinking yellow eyes. "Well, human," he said with a voice full of contempt, "do you have anything to say for your pathetic species? Any defense for why you should be allowed to remain among your betters?" Jake Morrison slowly pushed back his chair and stood up.